Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Soly here, TPC Craig James week. So you know my guy, the big guy. Remember the 5. Big Randy is here. Hello, Big.
What's up, guys? Great to be here. Interesting week. We'll get into all of it, but yeah, nice to be with you gentlemen this evening.
We call this a hazard pay week. We demand extra pay from the rest of the group to cover a tournament week like this one. I'm going to be turning the host duties over to my guy KVV here shortly. I am coming in hot off of a trip to Bandon Dunes, which I'd love to tell you guys about if you'll listen. But it might be more interesting than TPC Craig James. But I'm going to toss it to him. He's going to guide us through the show tonight. Kevin, how are you?
Soly, I'm doing great. I'm living the dream of every middle-aged white guy. I get to play point guard in an off week here. I get to feed my shooters. So I get to get you guys to hustle, get you guys to move up and down. I'm running the show. This is what I've always wanted. Guys, tonight's show is brought to you by Titleist, the #1 ball in golf. Soly, you're coming off a weekend of Lord knows how many holes at Bandon Dunes. The people are demanding to know how many balls did you go through and how do you mark your Titleist?
Gosh, I mean, again, here it is, topic conversation, my golf at Bandon this past week. Happy to talk about it. But I packed light this week. I went Sunday bag. I was being nice to our caddies out there. Joe Zwickel was on the bag for me this past week, was trying to be nice to him. I only brought 12 golf balls. I've never done that on a trip. Proud to report, I only went through 6 in 4 total rounds, plus 19 holes at Shorty's. One of them I lost. One of them I scuffed when I hit a sprinkler head on the 13th hole at Bandon Dunes, which is all on film. It'll be not quite as funny as Neil hitting the sprinkler head at St. Andrews Beach, but Titleist was nice enough to send me a box of the balls with the small NLU logo on them. So I actually was pretty lazy this week and did not mark any of my golf balls this week because I knew the small NLU logo was mine. I play the Pro V1, and I got to say, so the Pro V1 is softer. It's lower launch, lower spin, and man, was I thankful to have that power this past week. Hitting low shots, using the ground, piercing the wind. It honestly wouldn't make all the difference in the world to me to play the Pro V1 or Pro V1X under normal conditions, but in what we played in, it really did make a world of difference. It was predictable. I never once hit the dreaded ball into the wind that balloons so much and starts coming back at you and comes up 35 yards short. Not once did I hit that shot. Playing the T150 irons, which are lofted down 2 degrees, and the combination with that and the FootJoy rain gear, which came in great handy. I honestly played some of my best golf in some very not nice conditions, which is not the case if you've watched some of our videos from many years ago. I can honestly say the equipment had a ton to do with that. So this is an ad read, but that part honestly is not. That's the truth. It's all on video, which will roll out here at some point. But in the meantime, head over to Titleist.com to start the fitting process. Find the best ball for your game. Titleist.com.
Thank you, Soly. That was an excellent recap. You know, I was reminded of my friend Max Homa's comment about Bandon Dunes is if you've been to Bandon Dunes, it's sort of like discovering that someone is a vegan. They're going to tell you about it. They're going to let you know all what it's like. Quick rundown before we sort of get into the meat of things. About
really
what
quick
happens.
On that, super quick before that. People, a million questions we got about the Bandon Dunes greens. We'll address all of that at the end. You got to listen to the end of the show. But to the cajillion people that have this on their calendar want to know the deets on the Bandon greens, we'll give you all at the end. Spoiler alert, it's all totally fine. Everybody's going to be fine. You're going to have a wonderful time at Bandon Dunes. Do not fret.
All right. Now to the less important stuff. There were some winners of some tournaments around the world. The winner of the CJ Cup / Byron Nelson was Taylor Pendrith by a shot over Ben Kohles. This came down to the 72nd hole, with Kohles making a pretty bad bogey and Taylor making a birdie, a little reversal there at the end. Randy, I know we're going to dig into this with it in a second, but let's keep running down. I know you're itching to talk about this, but we're going to get through the results.
I'm laughing. I got to start putting in my NLU contract. I want to be on the Jim Nance schedule. You know, if Jim's not calling the tournament, I don't know why I'm on the Sunday show. No offense to my guy, Andrew Catalan, but yeah, we'll get to it, KVV.
All right. There was no Corn Ferry tournament this week. Over in LIV Singapore, Brooks Koepka fired a 68 to win by 2 shots over Aussies Cam Smith and Mark Leishman. Ripper GC was the winner in the team competition by 3 shots over Los Fireballs and TC's Cleeks. Strong showing.
Unbelievable.
It sounded like TC was just locked in at Bandon even to this, what was going on all week.
the time zones were really weird. It was oh shit, that might be going on right now. What's going on? Yeah, they have 4 holes to play. It was very weird, but yeah, TC was into it, of course.
We'll get to Brooks in a sec, but it's his 4th victory on the LIV Tour, which is 4 more than John Rahm, which I'd also like to talk about in a little bit as well. On the DP World Tour of the Volvo China Open, Spain's Adrian Otegui shot a 65, but win by a shot over Guido Migliozzi. Migliozzi, excuse me. Thank you, Soly, for I don't want the fine at the people of.
You got to kind of have the Italian hand symbol when you do that.
It was the 5th career DP World Tour victory for the 31-year-old. 3rd round leader Sebastian Soderberg shot a 72 on Sunday to finish tied for 3rd. The LPGA and the LAT were both off this week, and on the Epson Tour, Madison Young wins the Casino del Sol Golf Classic from Tucson, Arizona, by 2 shots over 6 other women. It was the first Epson Tour win for the 27-year-old American, who moves to the top of the year-long race to the card standings. Guys, should we start with Byron Nelson? I know Byron Nelson in general might feel like this is not the best.
Does this event honor him? Like, can we start with that? Does it honor Byron Nelson?
I wanted to ask you guys
right to you guys. If you were Byron Nelson's family, would you still want this event, this conditions, this tournament, this course attached to your name? Put aside the charity element for just a sec. Obviously, charity is great. Nobody hates charity. Do you think this honors Byron Nelson?
And I even think the CJ group are trying. I appreciate them building out the 17th hole, the par 3. They got the guys in the red trousers working the course. Like I'm not sure who's I think we all know whose fault it is eventually, but it's just it's a bad venue. It's a bad venue, and it's a bad part of the calendar. And I don't think it does justice to Byron Nelson, a historic name. I think he's 6th all time in PGA Tour victories. It just feels unbecoming to still have his name attached to what is clearly a second-class event on the PGA Tour.
Well, someone has to win the second-class event, so Taylor Pendrith emerged as the winner. He actually began the day with the lead. I'm going to give a quick sort of rundown of how things happened in case you were one of the millions who did not tune in. He chunked a pitch shot on the nearly drivable 6th hole, but then holed a bunker shot for sort of a surprise birdie to get to 21 under. That sort of seemed to steady his round. He did not play particularly well, did not hit his irons particularly great. But Ben Kohles was really the story. He made 3 straight birdies on the back 9 to get to 20 under. Then he made on the front 9, and then he made another birdie on the 8th to take the outright lead. It was kind of back and forth there. Pendrith birdied the 9th to get it up to 21 under. And then he took the outright lead back from Kohles on the 12th. But then Kohles birdied 16 and 17 going into 18. A big boy birdie on 16, hitting a sort of shot to about 3 feet from 180 yards. A great shot into 17 and rolled a putt dead into the throat of the hole. Really looked like he was in control. The easiest hole on the entire course, the par 5 18th. No one had bogeyed the entire day. Cole hit sort of kind of a squirrely drive that ends up kind of in just short of the bunkers in some right. I mean, he only hits at about 275. So, some of those bunkers were not in play that they were in play for others. Hits a shot up towards the green. It doesn't get into the greenside bunkers. It gets into the sort of those weird, in between rough. There's a big discussion about what's the ball doing. It looked like from the TV broadcast, they were saying Colt and IBF were saying it was sitting down. Actually, on the transcript later, I looked afterwards. Colt said it was sitting up, and that was the problem. He decelled hard into the chip. The chip pops kind of straight up. Should have maybe, if he goes into the other bunker, he might actually been able to get an easier shot to get up and down from there, but it doesn't. He has a super weird stance, can only get it to about 6 feet from there with a little kind of grab the club halfway down. And Pendrith, meanwhile, hits a second shot onto the green from about 225 and 2 putts. Total reversal. Kohles misses his putt. Pendrith has a shorty to win. Pretty devastating finish for Kohles, who's 34. Not a lot of chances are going to come in like this again, I would think. For him, he's played well on the Korn Ferry Tour, but not exactly like a big-time career ahead of him. Yeah, Randy, we're doing the choke symbol a little bit. Look, when is it okay to call
we got to call
choking?
I mean,
he's a friend of the program. He's a Wild World of Golf alumnus, Randy. He played great into those pressure situations.
Who are we if we can't call it like it is, though?
It was very unfortunate.
I mean, IBF said that's pressure, right? That is pressure. He gets that chip up, down like a ton of times.
So nervous he couldn't even spit.
Absolutely. Soly, I don't know what is it like down the stretch like that in a tournament like that? I mean, you know,
it's tough, man. You're trying to win your first. It's, you know, a lot of things going through your head. For someone that's been kind of around pro golf for that long and not really on the precipice of anything like this at any point in his career, all that comes with a win is just gotta. I don't know how it doesn't enter your brain. Hit an awesome putt on 17 to make a 2 on that one, and honestly, if he gets into the bunker there instead of the rough on 18. Are we sitting here saying he choked? Probably not. Like, it was kind of maybe a little unfortunate to get into that spot. He probably, at minimum, he gets it out of the bunker onto the green in 2 putts and gets into a playoff, right? And then the bunker shot was not, or the shot out of the rough was not ideal, but it was an unpredictable shot to get out of there. The putt was the one that's like, that's pretty tough to describe any other way. I mean, that was did not look like a very difficult putt. Not much of anything looks very difficult at TPC Craig James. And I mean, it was 5 feet 1 inch and it didn't hit the hole. Like, that's the part that was really tough, but I'm sure he was pretty flustered from, looking like he had this thing wrapped up and then it gets away. So it's tough. I was really pulling for him. You get 2-year exemption. You got your job locked up through 26. You're playing the Masters next year. And now you don't get any of that. And that's pro golf in a nutshell right there.
Big TC in our internal Slack said that Taylor Pendrith is a disgrace, that he is, should apologize. This is a fraud. I think we know TC is kind of doing a bit half the time about this stuff, but Taylor Pendrith, not exactly like a butt kicking kind of player on tour this year. What do we make of a guy who's hits it long, but obviously is just really not an elite tour level player grabbing this victory?
I mean, somebody had to win, I think, is my big takeaway this week.
That should be the new PGA Tour tagline. Somebody had to win.
I mean, why not Taylor? I will say, going back to that 17th hole, you mentioned Ben Kohles draining a birdie putt. Taylor had, according to StatCast or whatever, 6 feet 6 inches. And I don't know if it was a full 360, rimmed the putt in, but that ball very easily could have stayed out. And if he makes,
I had in my notes, it went 355 degrees around the hole.
If that putt doesn't go in, Kohles has a 2-shot lead going into the 18th. And then, if the same thing happens, we're in a playoff. So that was a key moment. Listen, I don't share TC's disdain for Taylor Pendrith. I have nothing against the guy. I think some of that TC's disappointed in Taylor now being prominently involved with his international side in the President's Cup. Listen, he was I believe he was going for his first tour victory as well. So it was a bunch of guys, you could kind of see the pace slowed down and you could kind of feel the nervousness all through that back nine. Credit to him, good birdie on 18. I'll just go back, like Ben Kohles. Like I'm not necessarily relishing in that it was a choke. I think it was a choke. It wasn't a crowning in my book. Like, a crowning is when everybody around the leader kind of vacates early in the round, and it's kind of a no pressure win. This was a choke. I mean, the 71 hole leader is the only guy all day to bogey the 18th. Like, that's tough. He makes the one mistake you can't make with that little chip shot, leaving it short, and just spiraled from there. So it was, at least we got, I was sitting there for 3+ hours today watching golf, and it's like, at least I got some moments that, I gave an audible sick when that chip shot happened, and we did get a good finish. So I do appreciate that.
Soly, if I'm an architecture kind of novice and I tune it into this, why does TCPC Craig Ranch stink? I mean, we talk a lot about it. I feel like we're, in the 3rd year of this, playing it here. It's probably our least favorite tour course. What would you say is, like, if I was asking you to explain, why does it suck? Hit me with an explanation.
It's hard, right? Because I do my best not to sound like a snobby architecture nerd, and I don't really enjoy that. But what I really enjoy is a really strong relationship between the quality of your shot, the punishment received, the reward received, and I like to see a close line in that relationship, right? If you pull off a daring, risky shot, you earn a birdie. And if you miss, you might make a bogey. And TPC Craig Ranch is the opposite of that. It doesn't require daring shots of any kind. It requires the most straightforward golf you could possibly play. It's not even in good shape. Like it's,
it did get a ton of rain, to be fair to the architects and
that's
grounds crew, not the architects, the grounds crew.
Yeah, ignore that. Ton of rain. That's not in the top 10 reasons why it's not a good golf course for a professional golf event. It doesn't have any of those things. Taylor Pendrith is not a good ball striker. He barely even gained strokes approach this week. It just becomes a driving and putting contest essentially. When you can drive it as far as he does, he's not an accurate driver, and he is a long driver. I'm not discrediting Taylor. Somebody's got to go win the tournament, and he did it and pulled off the shots and was good around the greens and made the putts he needed to. It's just like that is just the like poster child for a golf tournament that just doesn't need to exist. But again, in a totally different world, I understand why it does. I understand why they moved it to the north side. They had it at Trinity Forest. It was a disaster at Trinity Forest for a variety of reasons. They couldn't raise the money. The Salesmanship Club could not raise the money that they could if they had the event on the north side. They needed a new home. They found this. They can raise a lot more money for charity. That's why this event exists. That's not why I'm a golf fan. As much as I love charity, like it's just one of these things that's like a representation of the archaic model of the PGA Tour. And like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's a great entertainment product. Like, it's just not. It accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish. It raises a bunch of money, and it brings a professional golf event to Dallas. But that ain't it. As far as where I'm sitting. If it's your thing, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but that ain't it for me.
Well said. I don't think we need to spend too long lingering on this here.
I got another 45 minutes to go if you want. But
what are we really going to say that we haven't said several other times? But some kind of notes from the tournament. Chris Kim from England, at 16 years old and 7 months, became the 5th youngest person to ever make a cut on the PGA Tour. He's the youngest European to make a PGA Tour cut, and he broke Jordan Spieth's record for the youngest to ever make the cut at the Byron Nelson. He struggled a little bit Sunday, but still someone to keep our eye on. His mom is a former LPGA player, Ji Hung Soo. Chris got into the tournament because he's the first amateur sponsored by the CJ Cup. So I watched a little bit of him, had a nice shot into 18 there.
CJ Group, eagle putt. You meant there.
CJ
yes.
Group.
Yeah.
Look, guys, we absolutely got assaulted by the Babejo commercial this weekend.
BB
Oh my God.
Kids are asking me, how could someone possibly be this excited about frozen dumplings? I got to just ask, like, what ad agency is like, hey, let's get 60 of these ads and let's just jam them down people's throat over and over again?
I got the answer again. Archaic model. If you sponsor a tour event, we've pre-sold this media for you. Like, this is where your ads go. Like, right here, like, you can't. If you want to give up the ad spots, you can't. Like, we're running your ads no matter what. And the television partners want the break. They want the revenue. And this is where the money is going there. Like, again, take it all away. This exact week is the representative of everything that needs to change. But that's the answer to the question. Do
those commercials do on net? Do they do more harm to the product because you're so angry at having heard that little jingle over and over again? Or do you now know what BBGO is because you've been subjected to the torture over the weekend hearing that jingle?
Great question. I would say that the ad people would probably tell you that the torture puts it into your brain. Like, if I started singing the Burger King theme song, you'd probably be able to sing along with it. So like the, hidden, I guess, earworm that it puts in your brain is probably worth it to the ads. But man, does it feel annoying in the 50th time you've seen it in the last 2 hours.
I didn't even watch very much. I watched not even the full back nine today. I literally got back in town today, and I was sick of it by then. A ton of tweets all week of like about this BBGO thing. I'm like, yo, I missed Thursday coverage of the Byron Nelson guys. I don't know what you guys are talking about. As soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, got it. I'm up to speed here.
I mean, straight up assault, like auditory assault or whatever the term would be.
Somebody needs to apologize for it.
Will Zalatoris WD'd from this event. Not a great sign for the back stuff. Soly, you're the Zalatoris expert. I'm going to kick this to you. What are we to think of Will being out?
I wouldn't say I'm the Zalatoris expert. I'm the back injury expert as it relates to golf, though. I can tell you this is not a good sign. Especially for a hometown event for him. I don't know. Maybe he really didn't want to play Craig James and was just like, yeah, guys, the back is not great. I'm sorry to bail on this, but not good for somebody that was out for almost a full year after surgery. If it's still lingering, then that's tough with major championships around the corner here that should, in theory, suit his game pretty well.
Jordan Spieth also missed the cut in this event. He had some interesting comments earlier in the week, said that Scotty Scheffler's success had sort of motivated him, and he felt like it was the first time he had looked at someone younger than he, and felt completely like, I do not have that guy's game. Like, that guy is miles and miles better than me. And then went out and shot 2 mediocre rounds. Big, any Spieth insights you could throw out? I mean, I kind of buried him a little bit at the Masters, being like, whoa, it's getting to be a long time in the rearview mirror since you've had a truly great tournament. I was thinking midway through the morning, I was thinking, man, what if Jake Knapp has 2 more victories that Jordan Spieth has in the last couple of years? That would be quite unsettling.
Yeah, it's really sad. What a disaster for the tournament organizers. Spieth can't even make the cut. It's just, I don't know. It's sad. They're talking about I believe like a wrist issue that he's dealing with, and a lot of speculation how bad that is, and all the difficulties that is causing his golf swing, where he could be at the top of his swing, he could be through the ball, he never quite knows where it's gonna flare and pop up. So I don't know, sounds like a terrible situation. Spieth, I don't know, I honestly, more than ever, I said at the beginning of the year, if he doesn't win a major this year, like he's on the deceased list with Rory. Like, the guy, no juice.
Graveyard's filling up.
I feel like he's just another guy until he proves to us that he's not. Like, it's at this point, it's on him. I'm writing him off until he makes it so that I have to start paying attention again.
This is the worst iron play year of Spieth's career, aside from 2019, which was when he was kind of in the pits of hell of his game. You guys tell me this, and I know this is in the number weeds stuff, but tell me what sounds like the outlier when I go through this quickly. 1.4, 1.5, 2.6, 2.0, 2.5, 1.4, 0.78, 0.35, 1.6, 1, 1.25, 1.16. What sounds like the outlier when you go through those numbers?
The 2.5 ones?
I was going to say the small one, the 0.3, whatever.
2015 to 2017, 2.6, 2.0, 2.5 strokes gained annually. Like, those were the numbers. And his best since then was 2021, 1.62. But last 3 years, 0.99, 1.25, 1.16. That's massive. Like, that's the difference in being the second best player in the world, best player in the world, and being like 30th. And it's been a long time. It's been like 6-7 years now. So.
Well, listen, he's got this PGA Tour board that he's on. They're trying to keep Rory off the board. So, who knows what's going on with the internal politics. That's wear a lot on your game. Come on, can't expect him to do the business of the tour and play good golf, maybe. Speaking of people who are not DOA, Brooks Koepka.
Before we get to that, may I interest you as fellow golf enthusiasts? We've come to appreciate the tradition of celebrating a round of golf with a round of cocktails at the 19th hole. We are teaming up with Blade and Bow Kentucky Straight Bourbon because they elevate those celebrations, honoring the legacy of the golf clubhouse. Are crafted the same dedication and skill as the perfect swing. Blade and Bow is more than just a whiskey. It's a testament to craftsmanship and tradition. It offers the opportunity for a refined golf experience on and off the green. And what better way to toast to 18 holes than with a signature cocktail at the 19th? The Kentucky Caddy is a favorite of professional golfer and fellow Blade and Bow bourbon lover Wyndham Clark is a blend of fresh lemonade, peach tea, mint, and Blade and Bow served over ice. It's the perfect companion for celebratory moments at the 19th hole. Visit bladeandbowwhiskey.com to discover more about the premium bourbon and savor every moment responsibly. Blade and Bow, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 45.5% alcohol by volume. Stitzel Weller Distilling Company, Louisville, Kentucky. Please drink responsibly.
Thank you, Soly. They were drinking responsibly in Singapore this week, I saw, as they were digesting the fourth win for Brooks Koepka at a LIV event. Brooks always sort of tuning it up right in time for the PGA, which has been sort of his MO of the last few years. He mentioned in the lead up to this how pissed off he was about his Masters performance and how he was a little more motivated by that. Look, he said, I think the embarrassment of Augusta really kicked things into overdrive for me in terms of having to put my nose down and grind a little bit harder, having to look my team in the eye and apologize for not looking to do that again. Said he'd been working all through December to get ready for the Masters, trying to sort of knock that one off his list, and it felt like wasted time and an embarrassment when he finished 45th, and then it was disappointing to have his own kid watch him finish 45th. So it was cool to have him out there winning a tournament when he was there. Didn't know kind of what was going on with his swing even the last few months, that he couldn't tell whether he was going to hit a draw or a fade over a second shot. Guys, is Brooks going to come in and win yet another PGA? I suppose like maybe we should talk about LIV Singapore, but Brooks is always more interesting to me when he's trending upward when it comes to major time.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I don't quite know what to make of it, except it's certainly better.
He's got to see more out of Brooks in majors before he buys.
No, not in majors. Honestly, I hand up. I didn't watch a lot of LIV Singapore, so. But listen, he obviously has found some type of form. What I was going to say, it's better to be coming into a major playing well, I think, than not playing well. So you got to give him that. I do think that he's the type of guy. Obviously, the major weeks mean a lot to him, and he'll do everything possible to make sure he is at the top of his game. So I think it'd be great if he can get in contention and really be a factor at Valhalla. I mean, Brooks chasing major victory number 6 is certainly interesting. It goes back to like, your guess is as good as mine, though. I have no idea. And there's we don't know quite what's going to happen with Scotty. I mean, I assume he's going to play. I don't know if Meredith had the kid yet or not, and what, the aftermath of that's going to do. But if Scotty were coming in his normal self, I'd say you got a big Scotty Scheffler problem to deal with in Louisville. But it should be good. I think it adds to what will be a interesting major week in a couple weeks.
So, can we give Brooks credit for at least going out and winning these LIV events? I mean, I feel like there's some credit to be sort of received there for actually just being like, you know what, fuck it. If I'm going to compete in these things, I'm actually going to go out and capture titles instead of just going through the motions with the way he could have easily.
Yeah, this is what his 4th LIV win. How many PGA Tour wins did he even have? I don't
5, I think. Like, I guess you count if you're not counting majors.
Not counting majors. He his entire list of PGA Tour wins includes the Waste Management Phoenix Open, the CJ Cup, the FedEx St. Jude Invitational, and the Waste Management again. He had 4 PGA Tour wins. Now he has 4 LIV wins. You could say whatever you want about that with the competition. I would not reach any conclusion personally on what that would look like. But what I find noteworthy, he won LIV Orlando the week before the Masters last year and finished T2 at the Masters. Going into the PGA last year, he finished 3rd and T5 at Singapore and Tulsa before the PGA that he won, obviously, at Oak Hill. So I was just kept mentioning him in front of the Masters because it was like, I'm not going to fall for it again. He almost won it last year. He does this at majors. He's healthy now. Like it was truly just that time where he wasn't healthy that he was not competing in these things. And he was totally uncompetitive at the Masters, which was really disappointing. But the form is obviously back. He finished in the top 10 at Adelaide as well. You made a great point there, Randy, of like just a question mark around Scheffler of, first of all, Scheffler's never won outside past the month of April.
That's wild.
He's won 2 majors.
Into a pumpkin.
Both have been at the same golf course that he's just tailor-made for. Now, a lot of golf courses are very tailor-made for Scotty right now. But, yeah, absolutely take notice of Brooks heading into one of these. Another major. He's won 3 PGAs already. As it is, Valhalla seems like it'd be a good fit. He finished T15 there in 2014, which is, again, 10 years ago. I don't put a lot of stock in other than to say, like, there's no reason Valhalla wouldn't fit his game very well. The setup will be tough. Same strategy he deploys at major championships that he's won, he's going to do here. He will be at the top of he was the first thing I mentioned going into the Masters pod of like storylines I'm interested in. And he's going to be near the top as well because I don't think another major is going to go by where I don't fall for it where I do fall for it and don't mention him very early on.
Randy, unlike you, I did watch some of the LIV Singapore, although I did not stay up through the night to watch it. I watched the replays of it. Thanks to all the LIV fans who told me that I didn't know how to find the replays, whatever, was too dumb to figure it out. Finally figured it out. I can't say that I still can ever really get used to the broadcast. I feel like Arlo White just continues to scream like it's a Premier League goal.
What a moment
on every single chip in. But it was fun to watch Brooks hit some good shots. I will say, I love that Brooks can't help himself in sort of kind of tweaking LIV people, even though they sort of live in deniability. There's a couple quotes from his press conference. He said, when there's more on the line, it actually feels like real golf out here, which I enjoyed. And then he said, it doesn't mean anything in the scheme for the next 2 weeks, which is just like, he always kind of has like a little barb that can be flipped either way, which I tend to enjoy.
The the Team Smash press conference this week, I saw a clip of this. We're just talking about guys that are trying for qualifying for the U.S. Open. Just the fact that he doesn't wear the team gear is like kind of all you need to know about it. It's kind of, he's the captain and doesn't wear the team uniform is I think I'm ready to declare Team Smash might be my team on LIV, by the way.
Well, won't you feel good when Nike finally buys them for $1 billion or whatever? I've been told this is going to happen. Brooks did have one great quote that I thought sort of asked him in the presser why he played well under pressure. And he said, you know what? I think I'm pretty good putting inside of 8 feet. If there's a clutch putt, I do feel like I'm going to make it. The biggest thing I think that separates me is my ability to lock in and go somewhere where I think a lot of guys cannot go, which I think is a true sort of insight into Brooks's kind of killer mentality, particularly in majors. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention that TC's Cleeks hit the podium for the first time all year. The Crushers finished 11th, which was their worst finish this season.
TC's not on the show. Why is he not on here, taking a victory lap?
I feel like if the Cleeks were going to hit the board, we're going to win, that maybe we would have had to have TC do a call in, but even he couldn't be moved to go ahead and do that. There's some notes in here that is Kevin Na the worst captain manager in the history of the sport? The Ironheads of Majestics continue to stink. I got to say, I don't really care that much. If you guys want me to spend more time on that, I will, but I'm not interested. I do want to talk John Rahm, though.
Well, no, but it goes back to like, if you want me to get invested in the teams, then like we got to talk about that.
You got to have a draft. You have how do these teams come together? Like, you can't just walk up one day and have a team, and like, you can't trade Matthew Wolff for Taylor Gooch and and have people actually seriously invested in these teams. It's only going to be laughing at the Cleeks if the Majestics have 3 captains. They have 3 captains they have 4 total players. 3 of them are captains.
They finished last by 6 shots this week as a team, and they finished 32 shots behind Ripper, who won. They finished 17 shots out of 11th place. What are we doing?
I would not hate, just for the sake of fun, doing an entire podcast about LIV, like every team at the end of the year. Like, just like, all right, this is how this team needs to get better. These guys need to get cut. Some of these contracts got to be coming up. Like, there's got to be guys who are a little nervous.
We don't know. Nobody knows. It's all a guess.
All right. But I want to do a quick check-in with John Rahm. Finished 10th this week. It's his worst finish as a LIV member. He's now finished 3rd, 8th, 5th, 8th, 4th, 3rd, and 10th. So it's kind of what I was alluding to a little bit, Soly. And they're like, at least we give, Brooks credit for going out and getting these victories. I kind of thought Rahm would just win every week when he went to LIV. Is there something kind of, busted with his competitive, fire, I guess, with this? Or is it just kind of like, hey, golf is hard even when there's 20 guys who you're competing with?
It's not been, pick up the same John Rahm and place him in there. I mean, his strokes gain number is down as low as it's been since 2018. So he has not played as much golf. I don't know how to reach a conclusion there. I mean, I would honestly need more data. Like, anecdotally, you can make the argument like, yo, LIV players have played great in majors. Look at this. They have Cam Smith. They have blah, blah, blah. Or you could make the case that hey, there's been 7 majors since LIV golf started. 6 of them have been won by current active, at the time, PGA Tour players. If, once we get to, this will be the 8th one. PGA Championship will be 8. That'll be 8 full majors since LIV has been in existence. You either got to reach the conclusion that LIV is not preparing these guys very well to play in majors. If a PGA Tour player wins this one, that's 7 out of 8. You either reach that conclusion or the talent isn't nearly as good at LIV. It's got to be one of the two if that's the point, right? At that point. So it's not like a snap of the fingers super easy for John Rahm to show up and win one of these events. But mathematically, if you want to look at it, the LIV Singapore is easier to win for a player of John's skill level than the Byron Nelson is, just based on the field size, the members of the field, and that's what it tells you. That's what the data tells you. So, yeah, it's not been that many events. 7 starts this year, 6 LIV starts. That would be, to win one would be, you'd be winning 16% of the time. That's a lot. So I'm not totally alarmed by it. It's just been kind of meh, which is the worst possible result. It doesn't make me feel anything other than still feel like he and Scotty were on the precipice of having one of the great golf rivalries of our time. And if he's going to show up at the Masters and finish T45, this is a really sad development in his career. But it's only been one major, and I hope to still see him be competitive in the other majors. I really, though, can't pretend to care what he actually does in live events. That would be disingenuous of me. I don't know if you guys feel differently.
No, I would like to see him be more competitive in majors. But if in the Scotty rivalry, he's going to be the Drake to Scotty's Kendrick Lamar, then I'm going to go ahead and feel disappointed in that one. In the pre-tournament press conference, Taylor Gooch said he will not attempt to qualify for the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. No follow-up question as to why this was, but he just said that he was not going to qualify. Is this the biggest pussy move you can possibly imagine from our guy Taylor Gooch?
Yeah, I think so. I go out and qualify and shove it in the USGA's face, right? I think that's the track course of action I would like to see somebody in his position take, and that he's chosen the exact opposite. I can't really get down with that. And frankly, larger point, like Taylor Gooch is getting so much oxygen, and here we are talking about him. And I'm just like, why? 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 So I think larger point, like, who cares about Taylor Gooch? But on this specific point, yeah, dog, go earn your way in and ball out. And then, and then you can talk all the shit you want.
I felt worse for him last year because I do feel like the USGA sort of changed the rules a little bit with the Tour Championship stuff, and could feel sympathy a little bit there, being like, I'm trying to make a philosophical point about how if I was in the top 30 of the Tour Championship, I should still be. That was what qualified for the US Open. But this year, he doesn't really have any sort of excuse other than just being a sour quitter. I mean, Soly, you're trying to qualify for the US Open. Maybe you'll take Taylor Gooch's spot, right?
I'm going to at least give it a shot. I'm not afraid to go out there. And we're not going to film it this year, but listen, I've put an 82 out on film for the world to see. And I'm going back to the same golf course tomorrow to try to qualify for the U.S. Open. But it is a taking your ball and going home thing. Like, dude, if you were that good, you would go qualify. If you cared that much about it, you would go qualify. Like, he's so wrapped up like in the political nature of all of this, as if it changes anything for him. Like I don't know. He wasn't even supposed to be in this league. It was an accident. He thought he could just play Live London and not get suspended, and then had to like back his way into joining this league. And now he's like one of the ones riding the hardest for it. It's he just does not
so much money.
Yeah, just does not seem like an intelligent person. I'm sorry to say, but it just does not seem to be the case.
He's a very nice person, I'll say. I've had a couple dealings with him, and I always thought he was very pleasant. But I would agree that not the most worldly, sharpest person out there. I don't think we really need to spend any more time on Liv. I did see that Anthony Kim.
How much? Real quick, just yeah. I have two trivia questions when it comes to Liv, and one of them can be this: without looking, team and everything involved, how much money do you think Taylor Gooch has made from Liv Golf?
Oh, I think it's almost 50 million.
So not including his signing bonus,
correct? Which we don't even know if he got one.
Yeah. I would say, gosh, yeah, I wouldn't go as high as Randy. I wouldn't say 50. I would say 35 million.
I would listen to Big Randy because it's $53 million.
Holy shit.
They're giving away a lot of money at Liv. His Liv earnings would be 15th all time on the PGA Tour. He has made more from Liv Golf than Jon Rahm made on the PGA Tour on course.
Jesus. I mean, look, if you're not a serious person and you do not really care about playing in majors and winning majors, then this seems like a great deal for you.
But I don't get is like, dude, you got all the money now. You got all the money. Like, aren't the majors kind of how you want to imprint your name in history? I can't imagine not wanting to give it a go. I mean, unless you're just too scared of like, if I don't qualify, I can't take the public backlash, which there would be, but I would have more respect for him going and trying and putting his name on it than just refusing to go try.
It would be pretty easy to make a joke about it too. Like you shoot about around and be like, oh yeah, guess what they said I was, what they said was true. Like I'm not good enough. So I'm going to go back and make another $50 million on this other tour. So, enjoy that one, haters. Like it wouldn't be that hard to kind of like brush off.
How much money do you think Brandon Grace has made from Liv Golf?
I have no idea on
Well,
this
now
one.
my calibrations are completely off.
Yeah.
So I got to say $25 million.
29 million, which is roughly equivalent to what Colin Morikawa has made on the PGA Tour.
Wow. All right. Sounds great. And it's made a huge difference, right? With a perception of the league and everything. Those guys, those seat fillers right there, they're really important.
160,000 people watched the final round of LIV Adelaide on CW. Of course, it was on replay, and I'm sure 1.4 billion people watched it on Caffeine TV and on the apps. I'm sure all that's the case. But
no, let me just say that that might be how many watched the CJ Cup final round.
But I did see
going to be very low.
I did see big that the WNBA chose not to put Angel Reese's first game on there. So some fan preseason, yeah, and some fan live streamed it, and it got 400,000 views. So that's a good sort of, I think, weighing against where golf stands in the viewing public's interest at the moment. If that's a preseason WNBA game with a potential star is getting twice as many views as a league that's handing out $54 million to
but you don't know how many billions are watching on the app, right? That's true. That's what we don't know.
I did see that Anthony Kim had a pretty good couple rounds early, but then first round 75. Soly, you were asking kind of, does anybody care? I'll say I just started following Anthony Kim on social media, and it's become kind of the one thing that I feel like I'm mildly interested in LIV every week. So I'm still kind of tuned in a little bit. DJ and I had a sort of a long email exchange back and forth earlier this year that we ran in our sort of pen pals segment about what to expect from Anthony Kim. So I haven't quite given up interest yet in it, but I guess I never really thought that he was going to be a star, but I do like seeing him with his kid and seeing him, healthy and sober and looking like he actually is having a good time. So
best case scenario, it helps. I don't want to say literally save his life, but save his life, give him some purpose. Hopefully he gets personal satisfaction out of it. I don't think it's going to be a needle mover for LIV. I really don't have a problem with him like eating a spot in the field. He's like an add-on to the field. It doesn't really change a whole heck of a lot for me, other than when he does beat some of the captains of the other teams. That's probably a pretty tough look for some of the people he gave long-term contracts to. But I said it when the first week out, it's knowing a little bit about the backstory. Just the whole thing makes me feel really icky in general. Of just feels like he's being taken advantage of. Look, he's going to make a lot of money in the process, but like I said, there's just a complicated past that he's kind of hinted at a little stuff here and there. And I don't know when or if we'll get the full story, but I don't foresee him ever being a serious competitive golfer again. This is obviously not serious competitive golf like what he's playing now. Granted, he has some time to figure it out and is not expected to be competitive this early on, but it is just the whole thing still makes me pretty uncomfortable. I'm rooting for him. I just don't think I don't think what I'm rooting for is like tied to success on the course though for him, if that makes any sense.
Well said. While we're on the subject of LIV, I want to sort of touch on Phil Mickelson, who during the sort of pre-press conference thing kind of hinted that he might be close to retirement. Sort of a Bloomberg article that I think tried to maybe blow that up a little bit more, but he did say that I'm kind of near the end of my career. We'll see if Phil sort of hangs on. But then in more recent days, Phil sort of took to Twitter again, and after having a few energized coffees perhaps, and kind of popped off a little bit about saying that, if LIV players were not going to be invited to majors, that maybe what if no LIV players attended? In a now deleted tweet, I will sort of read off here. Maybe some LIV players won't be missed, Mickelson wrote, but what if none of the LIV players played? Would they be missed? What about next year when even more great players join, or the following year? At some point, they will care, and they'll have to answer the sponsors and television. FOAFO, which I assume means fuck around and find out. I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't think, or I would love to see it happen if Phil trying to convince Brooks Koepka and Jon Rahm to skip majors to make a philosophical point that he's been trying to make about whether LIV players should get OWGR points. But again, Phil deleted the tweet, so it's impossible to know where he actually meant this or whether he just was kind of in his bag a bit. Big Phil was our guy for a long time. He's become quite the living Twitter troll. Should LIV players just blanket refuse to come to majors and see if people want to fuck around and find out?
I mean, I won't tell them not to. If they feel strongly enough that they're getting blackballed as a group, then hey, if they want to band together and exert some power as a quasi union, then let's see what happens.
Now we're talking.
I just imagine
for it.
Brooks Koepka. All he actually cares about is winning majors. Imagine him doing the Rudy thing, laying his jersey down in Mike Wan's office of like, because Abe Answer does not have a spot in your tournament, is not earning world ranking points, I refuse to even compete against the likes of Scotty Scheffler. Imagine that. Imagine John Rahm just be like, nah, until Taylor Gooch gets a special exemption in this tournament, I'm not going to play in this tournament. Phil's 54. Like,
imagine Phil not playing the Masters, right? Like, I can't imagine him willingly skipping a Masters year. None of it makes sense. But again, hypothetically speaking, if they felt that strongly and wanted to act as one body, then it's interesting. I'd be here for it, but I just can't ever see it happening.
I want to ask this briefly, and I don't want to spend too much time with this, but as a philosophical question, how does LIV and the PIF benefit from having Phil sort of be like one of the front facing things of their enterprise? Is there a future that exists where like they kind of realize like maybe just cutting Phil loose is sort of a better thing? Like he's very polarizing. A lot of guys don't want to sort of be back together with him. He doesn't have any kind of interest in the reunion with the PGA Tour stuff. Like I kind of feel a little bit like maybe the PIF may be like, you know what? Like we kind of got what we needed out of Phil. Like we got enough credibility to start the league. We got a blueprint for it. Now, like just kind of let him figure out if he wants to go and play on the Asian tour. Like we don't need him. He's not a very good player. He's not really bringing fans in. Is there a future where there's no Phil? I mean, does Phil really think that Yasser is going to be loyal to him versus like the actual profitability of LIV at some point and joining forces with the PGA Tour? If Phil is one of the people standing in the way of that?
Soly, I'll jump in here to answer first. I think I think Yasser should be loyal to Phil. I think Phil remains very popular with a large swath of golf fans. He is polarizing. He's not as universally beloved. I think where Phil's real value is, KVV, and I was thinking about this question because you had put it in the agenda early today. I think him moving from competing in LIV to being a broadcaster for LIV is a very interesting and potentially exciting career move, and something that he is very, very good at. He is excellent about talking about golf, breaking down what shots, what it requires to hit certain shots, what it means to try to do certain things. Like that's where I see all of his value going forward in LIV. It's not as a competitor.
That's a great point. I was going to say, like, one thing I will give LIV a lot of credit for, and Bryson in particular, they've really upped the game when it comes to content. Like they had a fun little thing with Phil and Bryson talking about grinds on wedges and things like that, just walking down the fairway. I was like, dude, bring me in on some of the personalities that you have here, right? Like that's one thing you do have going for you. And yeah, I don't need Phil rolling around in high flyers capes to be entertaining. But yeah, him on the broadcast talking golf would be, I mean, it would get me to tune in more often just because you're waiting. Him on a LIV broadcast would be so unfiltered. He would say some outrageous stuff. Yeah. It would be, that's a really, really good point, Randy. And I'm guessing probably had a 4-year deal. I mean, after next year, it's up, and I don't know what's going to happen. LIV is looking like it's going to make it longer than I thought it was going to make it. And if there is something coming back together, I would guess next year would be the last year for LIV as we know it. I don't know that I've heard nothing that would make me think that that's imminent anytime soon. But I don't know. It's a super interesting question in general. Is what happens with this next round of contracts with LIV. I mean, one, we don't know what they look like, but two, like, do you re-up like Danny Lee, or do you again throw $100 million at Wyndham Clark now, or do you go Tony Finau? What if you double?
Yeah, it's going to be guys like that. I feel
double his offer, and like, how do you turn that down at that point? Like, if the PGA Tour is not going to get back together, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think it is still totally antithetical to what I like about pro golf, and not where I'd like to see the game go, which I think is well documented. But I don't know how you just kind of they have so much dead weight there now. I don't know how you just sign that. But that's a huge flaw in their model, though, is like you have to keep paying exorbitant fees for these to retain the talents of these guys. Again, if it was a serious sports league, it would not work out, but it's a sports watching exercise. So we've been through that. I think that's covered.
Guys, I don't want to spend too much time recapping the China Open, as I don't think any of us really watched it. But Adrian Otegwe, who was a LIV player.
Before we do that, man, can I tell you about our friends at Omni Resorts and the Omni Golf Collection?
Please do.
As the official hotel of the PGA Tour, Omni's impressive golf lineup spans 13 can't-miss destinations from coast to coast, 28 courses in all, from championship designs by iconic architects like Gil Hanse, William Flynn, and Bo Welling, multiple short courses, putting courses, even leading non-traditional and interactive experiences. No matter your skill level, you're bound to find an entirely new way to enjoy the game. Something new for 2024, the Omni Generation Cup. Generation Cup marks a year-long celebration of golf, family, and competition. The first of its kind nationwide tournament is perfect for family members of all ages and skill levels. Generational teams of 2 will compete in qualifiers at 12 Omni properties ahead of the national championship at Omni PGA Frisco Resort and Fields Ranch next May. Grandparents and grandchildren, parent and child, aunts and nephews, uncles and nieces, who will carry who on the course. Find out at Omni's inaugural Generation Cup. Qualifiers start later this month. Locate the nearest Omni course and register today at omnihotels.com/Generation Cup. That's omnihotels.com/Generation Cup. Omni Golf, play the possibilities. That's a fantastic idea, if I may say.
China Open recap. Adrian Otegwe, as I said, was initially a LIV player in their very first season. So I guess there is proof that you can drop players and move on from them. This was, I think, only really other relevant news of this was that Sebastian's Soderberg and Japan's Kita Nakajima were all earned spots in the PGA Championship by virtue of their finishing top 3 in the Asian swing rankings. That is actually part of what set Phil off, is that people were complaining that LIV was not getting spots into the PGA, and yet these guys at the China Open were. In other major news, guys, Tiger Woods got a special exemption into the U.S. Open, very much expected. Soly, should Tiger just be able to get like an unlimited amount of these? I believe Jack got 8 of them. Marnie got 7 or 8 of them. How long should Tiger be able to get a sort of a free pass into the U.S. Open?
Tiger's 101 as long as he wants. Long as he's not going to play past embarrassment, right? He's not going to go once he's shooting 85 and up, like he's going to be done with this. So as long as he wants to play, as long as he can, somewhat get the ball around and get through however many holes he needs to get through, ideally 72, he should take them all. Tiger's a 1 of 1. Just move on. Golf still needs this guy. They still need the viewers. If he wants to be involved with leadership and kind of guiding the game of golf going forward at all, he knows he can have an impact still through just showing up at a tournament. So
even beyond that, I feel like you earn a lot of credit for having won the USGA Junior 3 times, the Junior AM 3 times, the American USAM 3 times, and the US Open 3 times. Like you've stacked up a lot of USGA sort of.
You should get 1 per title.
There.
1 per. You get 9. How about that? How's that for an answer?
Soly, one of the reasons I was hosting today is because you were off at Bandon Dunes this weekend. It was the 25th anniversary of Bandon Dunes opening this year. I would love to hear, and I'm sure the people out there listening would love to hear, like, what was your Bandon experience like this time? How many trips was this for you? And I'm kind of curious, what changed in the last few years since your first trip to Bandon Dunes?
I was actually kind of surprised with how much has changed. I mean, it's not been underreported on. Unless it's right in front of me, I struggle to keep track of some of these things, right? I kind of forgot there was a new short course opening up out there. See some stuff pop up and all that. The shorties, the new 19-hole course that's kind of out by Bandon Trails, kind of out by the 3rd hole, past the 3rd tee of Bandon Trails is where you would enter this new place. It's fantastic. It is freshly opened. It's got fresh sod out there. I was amazed at how great the turf was to hit off of. The acoustics from that video are going to be amazing. I mean, it's just as flush of turf as I've ever hit off of, definitely at Bandon Dunes. But the greens still need some time to grow in. They're fescue and they're not lightning quick yet. Not that a par 3 course needs to be, but it was so much fun. It was 19 holes versus 13 at the preserve. It just kept going and going and going, and it felt like a full round of golf. It had holes up to 7 or 6 iron, I think, on it, and a hole that was 39 yards, I think, over a ravine, trying to generate some spin off the turf there, try to hold a green it was awesome. It was really, really cool. That was Rod Whitman, Dave Axley, and Keith Cutton that did the shorties course there. And another great addition. Preserve has been it's busy at Preserve. Like, it's hard to get a tee time at Bandon Preserve. It's only 13 holes, but like, I know as I get into my late 30s, 36 holes of walking is a lot to do in a day now, whereas like 18 holes plus a par 3 course is a great day of golf. And it just was hard to get out and Preserve. But now there's 2 short course options, and they're both different and unique and both really, really fun. I was really impressed with shorties. I was ready for it to not feel grown in or, kind of feel like an add-on, but it was definitely additive to the resort. So I was excited about that.
Lovely.
Was there tell me about, is there a new sports bar behind Old Mac?
There is. It's like a full-on massive restaurant. Like, it was epic. Like, it's really, really, really cool. It's an awesome spot to sit out by outside. It was raining the whole time that we were at Old Mac, but they had an awesome dinner for us one of the nights, and just massive ceilings in there, big TVs, incredible menu, great place to hang. That's kind of always been lacking down there at Old Mac, but it's another just the food all week was it went from, in my previous visits, I just remember saying like, hey, the food is like a solid 3-star. Like, it's not Michelin star, but like 3 out of 5 star of like everything you need after a day of golf, nothing more, nothing overly fancy. It's perfect. And now it's like, dude, it's getting kind of next level out there. It was really, really, really impressive. And I got another thing to report, Randy. We talked a lot about your Old Mac take. It's been your favorite course at Old Mac. You got your stock is rising, if I may say, because the fescue greens at Old Mac are gone, and it is all POA now, which is an entirely different aesthetic and entirely different playability. It really, the greens just look, the mounding within the green surfaces is just highlighted a lot better with the green grass versus the kind of sandy brown that was on the fescue. I always struggle to putt the fescue grass. I'd never liked the greens there.
Such hard greens.
Now they are pure. They were the best greens out there by far. They're awesome to putt, and Old Mac just like continues to rise.
I will never understand the people who are like, oh no, we're not playing Old Mac. We're just doing the other 4 big course. I'm like, nah, dude, Old Mac is good. So I'm happy to hear that. I can't wait to get out there and see the new greens.
It still has like 3 holes that I would start at, like 10, 11, 12 stretch, the Redan and the road and the bottle hole. I still think could use some. That's the only thing that puts a sour taste in my mouth. This beginning is so good. The ending is really good. I really love playing Old Mac. I said this as well. I still think it's my 5th rated course at Bandon, but I still think between 10 rounds, I'm spending 2 on every course. That's the nitpicking we're doing between the golf courses at this point.
Yeah.
So you brought up the greens, a lot of talk on social media in this month coming up. I'm sure you got a lot of DMs on the way in there. What are the greens going on? What's happening there with the greens?
So a lot of pictures were circulating of an issue they're having on the Bandon Dunes greens, which for those of you not up to speed, it has been the worst winter they've had up there, the most rain possible. It rained almost the whole time we were up there. This coming week, it's supposed to continue raining. They missed their window to punch the greens at Bandon because of how bad the rain was during the week that they were supposed to punch. And there are, I don't know, probably 6 holes that have big spots in the greens that are relatively, it's ugly. It's not good. Like, there's no way around it other than to say we played it as ground under repair. And I think I had to move one ball that I hit into 15 over 4 feet to the right, and just to get out of putting on the brown stuff, and it was totally fine. Like, honestly, it looks way worse than it plays. It did not bother any of us. It did not affect our experience in the least. By the time, if you have a trip there planning, like going this summer, everything's going to be totally fine probably by the summer. Some of the greens that they had punched, like Pacific and Bandon Trails, again, the weather's just been not good since then, and they're still kind of coming out of a punch and then not rolling that true. Bandon greens, I thought, rolled the second best next to Old Max. Like, the parts that were healthy rolled completely pure, whereas, they are going to punch Bandon at some point when they get a window where they can do it. But honestly, a lot of people fretting about it, a lot of people worried about it, a lot of people kind of slamming them on it. And we played it in the worst that it will be. Like, every single week from here on, it's going to get better. I would say it maximum brought our enjoyment of the trip down 1%. The absolute maximum. I mean, if you let the current state of the greens affect your trip in any way, you're doing Bandon wrong. Like, it's like the most fun place to go play golf. I'm I can be a little bit of a snob with some of these things on conditioning, and I can promise you it just did not affect my experience. It just did not. I think the second green at Bandon, I had to putt through some bumps that were near the hole. That green was not in great shape. There's 90 holes there. Sheep Ranch was not open while we were out there. There's 90 holes there. If you have one hole where you have to putt through some stuff and it ruins your week, you don't go to Bandon. Like you don't deserve it. All right. So that's my report. Do not freak about it. Do not fret about it. Everything's going to be fine out there. And even in the worst possible spot that it could be in as of right now, it's only going to get better. As I said, from here on, it did not injure our experience in any way. So
anything changed about your rankings, Soly, there? Everybody always wants to know the rankings of the courses. Any
sounds like two apiece. Two apiece across all 10.
I think so. It would depend on the conditions, right? Because we played Pack on a very benign sunny day, which going to go play in Pack on a very benign sunny day is great. It's so much fun. It's so enjoyable. That was probably the highlight round of the trip. Our energy was just way high. We weren't hungover yet because we kind of went hard the night after Pack. We were hungover for Bandon Trails, but it's great. My beef with Pack has been it's not playable in most of the summer wind, or it's not nearly as enjoyable in the summer wind. I think it's poorly designed for the summer wind, which is, again, picking nits really, really, really tightly, but a lot of the holes do not play as well when the wind is coming out of the north. But when you don't get that wind, it's very enjoyable. It's very fun. Poosh and I worked out our differences on our ranking of the courses versus Pack versus Bandon. We were able to reach some common ground, I think, in understanding what he really values out of a golf experience, versus what I value out of it. I made him eventually agree, all right, Pacific Dunes is not a strategic golf course. If we can agree on that, that is the common ground that we need. I think it's overly penal on high handicappers and honestly kind of pretty easy for low handicappers. And I'd rather see a course trend the opposite way in both directions. I think Randy will agree with me on that take as well about Pacific. Kev, I don't know if you'll agree as well, but he loves the natural, the nature of it in terms of the found golf holes, the flow of the routing and the walk that you're on the course. And the way you describe that, I'm like, man, honestly, that part is better than Bandon. It is. What I really value is the strategic chess match of a golf course, and Bandon gives me that way stronger than Pacific does. So I continue to rank it well above Pacific. I'm curious.
I think I'm big on aesthetics. I like the feel of the experience, and that's why I love trails. And it's not a hipster take. I legitimately, if I could play any course every day, if that was a country club I could belong to, I would choose trails because I just love the serenity of being in those corridors. I love the vibe of it. I think the 13th hole is stupid, but that's okay. It 14th, excuse me, doesn't ruin my experience of, and if I played it 10 more times, I might figure out how to actually not make double there. So
no, it's stupid.
Look, Bandon is established enough credibility for me that where if they have one bad season, I know it's a lifetime trip for a lot of people, but it's just still a great experience. The thing I will just say about Bandon is that they never make you feel like they are doing you a favor. I hate high-end golf courses that sort of act like you owe them something by coming to them and giving them a bunch of money. And Bandon always makes you feel welcome and makes you feel like, hey, you deserve to have a great experience here. What can we do? Is there any way we can make your experience better? And I've always been appreciative of that in the 2 times that I've been. So cheers to another 25 for Bandon, I hope.
100%.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. The first time I went with my dad in 2013 was when they had a mosquito infestation, and we're literally spitting mosquitoes out of it was horrible. Trails was closed. It was horrible. And I still came back with having the best golf experience I've ever had to that point in my life. And so that's one of those things. Again, if you get a couple greens that are not in perfect shape, do not let it ruin what that place has to offer, because it is, again, one of those places. This was visit 5 that I'm just dude, I don't have a fresh hot take for you guys. There's not a person in the golf world that doesn't know this. The place is just magic. It's incredible. There's no diminishing returns in going back. It is always sad to leave because now it's hard to get a tee time back out there, and you don't know when you're going to be back. I don't know when I'll be back, and that's sad. But dude, it is just magic. It's special. There's just so many highs. We were trying to figure this out. We were trying to figure out every person to name their 5 best holes on the property. That is a way harder exercise than you might think. It is really, really, really hard to just only name 5. It's easy to name 10, but having to pick 5 was really, really tough. So there's a little exercise. People want to chime in on the YouTube comments to leave their 5 best holes. Be picky, be particular, because you'd be surprised what you have to leave out.
We might have to throw that in as a "What's burning at the Kill House" question for all of us. Make everybody put their name on something. Promise that the readers, they're always saying Soly doesn't answer questions. He just ignores them. He just uses them for the tone of the show.
And I tried to get one in.
So I just said I determined I would answer some mailbag questions of the people out there. Big, this one caught my eye, and I want to throw it to you to sort of kick off our mailbag section here. This guy, Devin Anderson, says in my DMs, I'm a listener and enjoy the LPGA content. Thank you very much, Devin. But why do you all insist on calling the Evian and the Chevron fake majors when especially Evian has been making at times larger investments in the pro women's game than the governing bodies? Compare purse size, player experience, and the fact that the PGA of America didn't even have a major till about 2015. I think it's hard to say you want more investment and undermine corporations that are making those big investments to the women's game. Mr. Randy, I point the question to you. Answer for yourself here. Fake major.
Yeah. Jesus. LPGA's off this week, man. Relax. No, I think I listen, let me just say I don't want to diminish the efforts and the money that's being put in by Evian, Amundi, their partners, as well as Chevron. Like that's very good. But I also think as the best professional women's golf tour on earth, like they have to have some standards about what is a major and what's not. And I think at the top of the list, like venues matter. Okay. We talked about TPC Craig Ranch. If you go look at the course rankings in the state of Texas, guess what? TPC Craig's Ranch is like 32nd, where they're playing the Chevron Carlton Woods. No offense to the members at Carlton Woods. They're ranked 29th. It's just not it's not on par with where the USGA is taking the US Women's Open. It's not on par now where the PGA of America and KPMG is taking that championship. It's not on par with the RNA and what they're doing with the Women's Open. And I will say, they mentioned the PGA of America wasn't involved in the KPMG Women's PGA until 2015. That's true. So listen, I don't want to excuse their inactivity for decades, right? But since they've been on board, coming up on 10 years, they're going to Hazeltine, they're going to Baltusrol, they're going to Congressional, Aronimink. Like these are championship courses befitting of a major. And the RNA wasn't involved with the Women's British Open until 2017. Like that is just kind of mind-blowing.
It's unbelievable.
The first however many Women's British Opens, the LPGA didn't even recognize it as a major. And they didn't always even play them on links courses. So there is a lot of work still to be done, but I think the crux of it for me is venues, more so than purse size or anything else. And so I also, as much as
if you're going to have it at one course every year, has to be a banger, has to be special.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It has to.
You cannot be a run-of-the-mill golf course, which both Evian and Chevron are.
Right. I mean, you have some of the best players in women's golf. Americans have skipped the Evian through the years. Like Lexi Thompson famously won't go over there because she's like the course's Mickey Mouse. Like it's very quirky. It's a gorgeous setting. It's a gorgeous setting from everything I understand. The players all say it's kind of hard to get to. It's a little out of the way. It's a long week just for the travel and the logistics. I have no problem with one or the other even being a major at this point. I think 5 is a little gimmicky. If you have 2 majors in the Evian and the Chevron, that one,
do you really have one?
The casual fan doesn't. They couldn't tell you the significance or the history of the event. They couldn't tell you anything about the golf course. It's like, what are we doing? They're not really. I know we can call them majors, and that's fine, and we can treat them as such when we talk about Nelly Korda winning her second major. But I think it's incumbent on the LPGA. They got to figure something out sooner than later to make that 4th major. And if they're gonna have 5, the 5 majors, they gotta, venue wise, they got to be on par with the other 3, in my opinion.
Well said.
And the more, honestly, like the more they can, for golf fans, it needs to mirror the men's game as much as possible. Like I hate to diminish it to that, but men have 4, the women have 5, and the 4th KPMG Women's PGA, equivalent to the PGA Championship. U.S. Women's Open, equivalent to the U.S. Women's Open. AIG Women's Open is equivalent to the Open Championship. There is no equivalent to the Masters, and the other two, so the other two are just going to feel like outliers. Like, that's just how it's going to be. So, like, the answer to me would be a women's Masters. Like that, that's the fourth, and that's it. Like, it's those four. And like imagine that a women's major at Augusta National versus the Chevron at Carlton Woods. Like, again, that comparison is what we're talking about here, right here. Like, it's not the same.
It's night and day. The suggestion I'd made previously is, and actually the LPGA event coming up this week is the Founders Cup, which is the LPGA that they are honoring the founders of the LPGA. So the 13 original women that came together and formed this golf league. It's their most historically rich event, just in terms of like what women's golf is and what paved the way for the LPGA Tour. I if I were them, and they've never asked me, and I don't get a vote, but I would take all that branding of the founders and I would at least attach that to the Chevron, right? And make it the founders presented by Chevron. And then you have the tie-in with the history. You can tell the story every year of the LPGA. You can invite back. It can be a homecoming, right? Past champions, luminaries of the women's game. Like, that's, to me, that's what the fourth major should be. But we're just in this weird environment right now where they needed some money, and they gave some corporations promises that they could have majors.
Well said. Well, Big, we're going to let you peace out on that. I know you got some other commitments that you're going to go. That's your walk-off homer that you're delivering right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue to grill Soly a little bit more here on a couple more questions.
All right. Let me just say, enjoyed it, boys. Thank you. Sorry to bounce. I had gotten movie tickets to the movie Challenger. So hot in the streets, Zendaya, I guess. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Zendaya, but I will have a full report next week.
With a dab.
We need to have a golf movie that's like the equivalent of Challengers. That's like a hot romantic sort of thing that people can. That's buzzing with the people. Maybe that's what the world needs to save golf. All right, Big, get out of here.
All right, boys. See ya. Thank you.
All right, Soly. I'm gonna keep grilling you here. A couple things. Some dumb, some interesting. A Twitter user Matthew Bellew asked if the pros had a karaoke contest, who would sing what song? Rory's "Don't Stop Believing" was super cliche. But in the end, it kind of fit. It got me thinking, like, what guys would you like to see sing what song?
I want to hear Phil Mickelson do his own version of "Hit 'Em Up." Like, I want him. I want that to be chess moves 32 through 37. I want him to air out all of his grievances, but it's got to be in rap form. It's got to be intense. I don't even know if that's technically karaoke, because I think I'd need him to change the lyrics to include Monahan, to include everybody that wronged him. Maybe I'm just too much in a Kendrick Lamar, Drake phase right now of wanting to hear diss tracks. So I'm going to twist that answer into that one. That was the only one I come up with, because that one had my mind in a pretzel for most of my flight today.
I was thinking that Jay Monahan could sing "Ain't Too Proud to Beg." That's hoping that the Victor Hovlands of the world wouldn't leave, or the Scotty Shovers wouldn't leave.
Is he even begging? Because I don't think he had a conversation with Ron before he left. Like, I don't even know if he is trying to retain these guys.
Good question. But really, I mean, serious answer, I would love to see Brian Harmon sing "Friends in Low Places." I think that would be just a banger. Emailer Ben Spinkett asks, we all agree that East Lake in late August is not an ideal place to host the Tour Championship. It's the extreme heat, the boring setup. It's not even a top 4 course in Atlanta. What course do you and the other lads think would be the best place to wrap up the prestigious Tour Championship?
Disclaimer here is that I'm excited to see the new East Lake with Andrew Green redoing it right now. Some of the images look drastically different. I don't know if it's going to be good. Don't know if it's going to be bad. But I would think it's going to be good and better. But it at least is going to be different this go around. That does not eliminate a couple of the other questions there. The extreme heat, just kind of a sleepy overall. It's going to contribute to a sleepy overall vibe. I've always said this one, or maybe I've just said it more loudly in recent years. Feels like this should be at Pebble Beach. A Tour Championship at Pebble Beach in August would be incredible. It'd be great. It'd be more prime time on the East Coast. It's an iconic venue that spans beyond just golf watchers on TV. If you are even remotely familiar with golf, you're familiar with Pebble Beach. I think it would people tune in for venues, and they tune in when things are on the West Coast as well, because the TV window is that much better. And if you really wanted a prestigious tour championship, that's where you would have it. That'd be my answer. Other than that, like a Riviera one, again, I always end up on the West Coast, but something out west on an iconic golf course that is a championship test that tests a variety of different skills would satisfy a lot of people. That's not what everybody tunes in for, but it's what the golf junkies would want to see, and a lot of casual fans would like to see it as well.
Soly, how about Chambers Bay? I'll throw that out there. So
I think it'd be great. I really do. I think a lot of people have sour taste in their mouth from 2015 still, and don't want to give it the time of day.
You get over that. Just the greens are bad. They've been fixed for a while. Chambers Bay rules. Not that I've played it, but I've heard a lot of
I would agree. It's my favorite course that I've never played, is what I've said about that, because I really want to play it.
All right. So listener Sam Weitzman Kirker asks, how many clones of you would you have to play to win a scramble of the CJ Cup? I've listened to you on the your Augusta pod, so I don't know if something like this was a question, but how many of Soly's would have to play to beat Scotty's final round of 68? I don't know what.
So that's two different questions, right? So how many, if I was, would I have to hit 2 balls for every shot or 3 balls for every shot in a scramble with myself to win the CJ Cup is the question. And I think 2 is not enough, and I think 3 is too many. Like, I think I would win the CJ Cup easily if I could essentially play a 3-man scramble with myself. That's not a brag. That's just a reflection of the format. Like, I'm not going to make a bogey if I get 2 mulligans on every shot on a single hole at Craig Ranch, and only 22 under, 23 under won this week. Like, I would have to make, there's drivable par 4s, there's reachable par 5s. I'm probably playing the par 5s in close to 16 under if there's 4 of them. Like, you just again, with that many mulligans, you're gonna convert a lot of birdies. So I don't know if 1 mulligan per shot would be enough. I think I would easily break par with 1 mulligan per shot. But the Masters one is different. Like, that would still be pretty darn hard for me to get a lot of birdies from the back tees at Augusta. I think definitely a 4-man scramble with myself, I would beat 68, and I think still a 3-man that I would as well.
People don't quite grasp how low you can go with a scramble, right? Like,
insane,
especially a player of your scratch talent. Like, I mean, I could never win the Masters in any scenario with 4 or 5, but someone like yourself is going to put up, is going to basically make 1 of 4 putts, like a lot of those times, right? If you have a makeable chance. And
it's just probably not going to have many 8-footers for par anyways. Like, you just are, if you're choosing between 3 of your best tee shots, none of them are, it's not like all 3 of them are going to be in the woods. Maybe once or twice, but even then your best punch out, your best chip, like, I don't know. It would not be that hard scramble wise, but scramble formats are, they're a joke for a reason.
All right, this is a long one. It might be a better address on a longer podcast, perhaps if Scotty wins the PGA, but I did think it was sort of interesting. Kevin, I'm writing to ask, because I think Scotty might be a problem in terms of golf maintaining interest. He's playing some of the most brilliant golf we've ever seen. It's his listener, Ben Pierce. I'm sorry if I didn't call that out. It's more or less flawless. When a flaw appears, he minimizes the damage. His style of golf is relentless and brilliant, but not interesting. Or perhaps it's just him. He seems like a lovely man with great morals, but he isn't a superstar. He is golf, but then he also isn't. Is this because I'm growing to resent his dominance? I think it might be part of the problem in declining US TV numbers. If Scotty keeps dominating, does professional golf have a real problem?
I don't think so. I think he's kind of in the zone of like trending towards being more interesting because of the dominance, right? I think even if it's not the most flamboyant and fun style, like, at least it's interesting. It's a great conversation piece for golf of like, how long is this going to go on? Like, is he one of the all-time best players? Is he going to have Phil Mickelson's career? Like, I think that's a good thing overall for golf. It's better than parity. It is like, there's not that many interesting guys, if we're being honest. So like, one guy being dominant is better than like the wins spread between Zalatoris and Scheffler and Morikawa. I think Spieth and Rory are in a weird different category where they tend to do have this star power that Ben, I think, is talking about, or they have an interesting something about them, either the way they behave off the course or the style of play. Like with Jordan Spieth, those thrill rides are different than the Scheffler thrill rides. We can all agree on that, but I just don't. I think the list of guys that really move the needle that way is very, very short in golf, and I don't see some of those guys coming back in that way. So I don't know. I tend to agree. Like it's I'm in all of it because of how good it is, right? It's not just that he's the best, but like how much he's lifted and separated from everyone else is astonishing considering the current level of technology. And we can say it every week, and it still doesn't really do justice for how impressive he's been. And we've wanted a superstar in golf, and I refuse to do that. Oh, not like this. No, not like this. Because I mean, if Morikawa was doing this, I think we'd be in this having the same conversation. If Ludwig is doing it, are we having the same conversation? I would probably agree with that. Rahm, maybe not as much, just because he's got a little more red ass in him. But I don't know. I'm interested in it. I don't think he's the reason of declining TV ratings. I think the sentiment of the sport is 1,000% the one contributing to that one.
I see a lot of people sort of grasping for like, why are TV ratings declining? It's because everybody was really pissed off about like the hypocrisy and the, just money grab that it all went through. It feels, and I wrote this at the time, like very much like the baseball strike of 1994. Like,
and guess what?
To take
I looked this up, Kev. Guess what the ratings dropped were in 1995 after the baseball strike? 20%. Guess what PGA Tour ratings are down this year? 20%.
So you don't fuck with people in that sense. They don't want to have it rubbed in their faces. So that's what I think is sort of disheartening about all these people who just feel like they got theirs. Like
and
they broke golf in a lot of ways, but they got theirs, so they don't give a shit.
And getting them back is going to be even harder. Like once people's habits change, like getting somebody back into the boat is really, really hard. It really is. Golf is a huge uphill climb in front of it. Pro golf.
Speaking on that, Corbett Van writes, what is a perhaps out of spotlight tour player, if given more attention, either deliberately through his own better play or something else, I guess, would be better for the tour? Is there someone out there who is fun or inspiring or even plays a unlikable anti-hero who would be good for golf?
I went up and down the player list to get an answer on this one, Kevin. I don't know if I feel great about my answer, but I do have somewhat of an answer here, in that it's Keith Mitchell is what I came up with.
I thought about Keith.
In that he's one of the more interesting guys to talk to and one of the best personalities. Like we've done 2 podcasts with him, and he's awesome. And I want to do another one with him. He keeps saying we need to do one where we just do fun stuff instead of super serious golf stuff. But like, he's a bit like Max in terms of like, you could listen to him talk about anything with the game of golf, and he can make it be interesting, engaging. That doesn't necessarily come off on TV when you watch him, and he's locked in being a competitive athlete, but like off the course, he's a great hang. He's funny, super likable guy. I don't know if it would like change golf, if he was playing fantastic, but he's a dude that with a little bit more spotlight on him, I could see having a rise like Max in terms of popularity. And he's got that kind of personality to match it.
My answer on this, I guess I had twofold, was if like Harry Higgs were like an actual like top 25 player, the everyman quality of Harry and just the sort of the way his personality is, the way he's willing to kind of wear his emotions on his sleeve, that would be, I think, really bring in a lot of casual golf people. Not a huge amount, but I think we're sort of finding the little sliver of people out there who could bring people to golf. And I honestly, if Patrick Reed were a better player, if he was like legitimately contending at every major and was like just a black hat wearing SOB, I think that would try to draw a lot of people in, because it would make them be like, oh man, I hate this guy.
Totally.
I want to see him, but I still want to see him take down like some of the white hats on the PGA Tour.
We had no idea how good we had it in like winter of 2021 when he was cheating at the Farmers. Allegedly. No, sorry, not that word. Not that word.
Thank you.
Checking to see if his ball was embedded.
Soly, Todd Eckstein writes, I'm a Division I men's golf coach, and I think I have an argument to say I have one of the best jobs in golf. You guys have a chance to interact with a lot of different people around the game, from tour pros to agents to journalists to caddies. Outside of your own work, who do you think has the best job in golf?
I thought about this one a lot today as well, and the answer I came up with was there's nobody that I'm envious of. And that's not to say I think we have the best jobs in golf, but there's nobody that I would trade spots with. That I can think of as of right now. I bet you might be able to come up with something that I'd be like, oh yeah, that's better than this. Because I will say, getting to see it up close, like there's almost nobody I know is enjoying a free ride through any of this. It's awkward hours. It's a lot of hard work, especially in golf. Like if you work at a golf course or at a golf club, if you're a caddy, if you are a head pro or whatever, like you're near where everybody else is having their recreation time and you're working, which is you know,
Mhm.
it's a great job to have, but like when I'm at a pro golf tournament, I'm working. Like I'm not there for fun. I'm not walking around for fun. I wouldn't be there for fun to do what I'm doing there. And I work Sunday nights. I work Saturdays. I took a day off last Wednesday. I think it was the first day I'd had off in like 7 weeks or something before I counted. Like it just, people in golf work hard. You work crazy hours. It's around the clock. You know, does Jim Nance have the best job in golf? I mean, he makes a lot of money doing it, and he, you know, shows up at tournaments on Fridays and leaves on either Sunday night or Monday morning. But he works every weekend and he travels and probably misses a lot of stuff at home. And like it, you know, there's weather delays. There's a lot of flights. It's just nobody has a smooth ride through all of it. And it's a lot of hard work that goes into outside of the hours you're working, a lot of hard work to make sure you're good at the craft along the way as well. So
It's true.
Do you have a better answer than that? Like, do you have anyone that springs to
Nance
mind?
is the one that came to mind. I mean, I could say the trollish answer and that like Greg Norman has the best job in golf because like you don't actually have to like succeed or like actually adhere to facts. You could just make things up along the way. And you know, so you get to air out old grievances from, you know, 25 years ago that basically you're still raging against. So maybe it's Greg, but I mean, I think like if you respect the craft, you respect someone who works hard. Like I think Nance is a great answer. I mean, like I think Brandel's an interesting answer too. Like Brandel works very hard at what he does. He's polarizing. We don't always agree on stuff. Like, but I enjoy how much he cares about you know, gathering information and trying to sound intelligent and smart. And I think Live From continues to be like a you know, bonus to the game when it's at big events. It makes it feel big. So you know,
with how many people hate Brandel, I don't know if we could say he has the best job at golf. I love Brandel as well. I don't always agree with him, but and like he does a lot of studio stuff. Like he's traveling a lot. It's dude, no one has it easy. Or I haven't seen a lot of people out there that have it easy. Is one thing.
Wrapping up here, a few more, Soly. Is there any, and I mean any chance that we get a competitive President's Cup this year? Duncan McDonald asks. I think he's a Canadian who's Taylor Pendrith looks like he's going to make that team. It's a home game for the Canadians that will have you know, Hideki and Jason Day also playing really well this year. Young Tom Kim, who knows if he's going to make the team, but you know, Sanjay, Minwoo, Ben On's playing really well. Hell, throw Toasty into the mix. Could be something to monitor. Are we going to get a competitive Canadian President's Cup?
I would not count out how much the Americans could suck. Like I would not count that out. So, after what we saw in Europe, I just would not count that out. I don't know if I have that much faith in the president, you know, the international team talent as much as I do. Like their process is really freaking good. I mean, they overachieved like crazy at Quail Hollow on a course setup that was terrible for them. A year they were ravaged by LIV. They were like flipping 1 or 2 matches on that Sunday from like one of the all-time collapses from the U.S. team. So will I like dismiss this President's Cup team like I did the one in 2022? I will not. I will not. On paper, it looks like pretty much all of these do that the U.S. should blow them out. But on the road, the U.S. propensity to throw up a stinker in that first session when they're on the road, no matter what the event, I would not count them out.
So this is the perfect question for a couple of country club assholes like you and I. Cole Leninger asked, where do you see American public golf going in the future? It seems that 2020 had a massive impact on the rise of recreational golf and has made courses and resorts more popular. And there's new ones springing up everywhere. We've also seen tee time price and availability suffer for the common golfer as a result, or even as third parties try to buy them up and flip them for profit. Where do you guys predict this will all lead us? Is the future of American public golf going to continue to grow for people, or go the other way as a result and become more disparate and private? Does the PGA Tour Enterprise impact this as well? What's going on with American public golf, which I know is close to our hearts because it's what we grew up playing.
I was going to say, I would resent the notion that I'm just a country club golfer because I worked at a country club growing up. I learned the game at one Twin Oaks Golf Club, which was a 9-hole course that has since closed to become a housing development. I then played a lot at Shamrock Golf Club in Dublin, Ohio, which is, of course, closed and now a housing development. And then worked at Riviera Country Club. I was a member. My family was a member there for a couple years when I was in high school. But then I worked there after that before it closed and became a housing development, which is my way of saying, like,
watch your back, Tim Aquino.
Until like land gets cheaper and until cities stop sprawling out farther and farther, and until then, I do fear for the long-term security of golf in the way that it's asking by Cole here of like, hey, are we gonna get squeezed out? Like, I go back to TC's article he wrote in the Golfers Journal several years ago. Like, it's the munis, stupid. Like, it's on the cities to designate this is the green grass space that we are going to maintain for our city to go outside and have recreation time on. Like, if you want the answer for the common golfer, like that's it for me. Or you're going out towards farmlands in remote locations to somebody that maybe is running a golf club that for, at a loss for tax reasons or is a benefactor of some kind. You either need a municipality to be taking care of a course, or you almost need a benefactor. Like, otherwise I struggle to figure out how it makes financial sense. That's speaking very broadly for the whole country. Like, there's definitely regions where golf is cheaper and more manageable and maintenance costs aren't what they are here in Florida or maybe in Baltimore where you live or where any of us live. It's really hard to speak in general terms when every community is affected differently by this. But it for me, it's like I pay more money to have country club membership because like I need the convenience. I just don't have like I don't have a broad window of when I might be able to play, right? And I overpay for golf because it's a passion of mine, and that's like what the demand of the situation calls for, right? Where I live in Jacksonville Beach, and an area where you could play golf 12 months a year. So it's I don't, like I said, I don't see any of that changing anytime soon. If the demand is going to be that high for people that are willing to overpay for golf, like I don't know. I don't know when that changes. Maybe the next, bust in the economy. But other than that, I just don't see that part dying off. I do think the growth of short courses and lighted driving ranges and all that kind of thing is kind of where I have more enthusiasm than like 18-hole green grass golf getting more affordable and more accessible. What do you think?
I think a lot of it depends on the region that you live in. I mean, just speaking to a little bit of like what you were talking about, I remember very vividly my father, when we would, he would try to get me and my sister to play golf with him and my mom, who wanted to play golf every weekend, but couldn't afford to be a country club member in Missoula, Montana. And so he would get up at like 5 a.m. when like the tee times became available a week from then on Saturday or whatever. And he would start dialing the number of the reservation system at Larchmont Golf Course in Missoula. And, sometimes the best thing you could get was like 10:30, even if you started at 5 a.m, because all these people were wanting to get those weekend tee times or whatever. And that was the time that he and my mom could play with us. Right. So the demand has been there in a lot of ways for public golf over time. And here in Baltimore, like, you can pretty easily get a morning tee time at one of the either 5 city courses or the 5 county courses that we have here. Like, and they're honestly, I think Baltimore public golf is sort of underrated because like you can walk for $35 at a course where conditioning's not that great, but like it's kind of a fun layout and you get sort of fun wind of the city. So I sometimes when people complain about like, yeah, if you're in Atlanta, public golf might be shitty. But like if you're in the Philly area or the Baltimore area, or hell, if you're in Nebraska or Iowa or Michigan, whatever, there's probably a lot of options for you. I get it in LA where it's super frustrating right now, where someone has purposely like manipulated the system, basically screw over regular people and try to flip profits, which is what happens with kind of everything in life, right? Yeah. Like, someone tries to game the system to make a profit. That's like capitalism to a T in a lot of ways. And, we allow it. So it's good that they're looking to sort of solve that in LA. I do think like we can figure out ways to where, courses could shave off areas like, all right, this is for family tee times, right? Like, this is where we're going to say like dads can bring their sons or daughters, or moms can bring their sons or daughters. And this will be how we'll sort of reinvest in the game. I think that that's not too much to ask as a long-term growth investment for municipal courses around the country. So it's not always getting squeezed out, but it's like, look, when I see some courses that are like $190 to play on a Saturday, I'm like, that whatever slight upgrade in conditions or architecture is not that worth it to me and my friends. We could play, Northwest in Montgomery County for $50 essentially. And so I get the concern and the worry. I don't know, like the person asked, does PGA Tour Enterprises, I got to imagine that PGA Tour Enterprises would only pay lip service to that kind of thing of like, hey, we're going to buy up a bunch of golf courses and make them available to I don't think that would actually be a priority in any way, shape, or form to a for-profit entity, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's kind of part of the long-term strategic plan. So obviously the golf has grown in popularity, and that playing golf in some ways is now like more important to people than watching golf. I think you can make that case. But what that means for the future, I don't know. I think that we do need to kind of distinguish between like, hey, ratings are down and golf is golf in trouble. well, you know what, like on golf as a TV product might have a massive problems, but golf as a, an actual recreation, there seems to be a lot of healthy sort of growth in that in the last few years.
And I don't know if this is in line with the question, but I do still think there's more room to grow on like the resort front, like these new resorts that like are not outrageously expensive, like by any means. Like it costs a lot of money to go to Sand Value and Bandon Dunes, but like it's like in the summer, peak summer, I think it's like $350 to play your first round of golf and $175 to play your second, which is 500. I can't do the math off the top of my head. $525 or whatever it is to play 2 rounds of unbelievable golf for less than it costs to play Pebble Beach, right? It's like there's room for more of that. If Mike Kaiser and his sons want to keep going to build these awesome places, Ben Cowandoer want to keep going, like it, because the demand is there in all these places. It's hard to get tee times in all these places. You could keep adding courses, keep adding lodging. People are still going to keep making the trips. That part has me excited more so than like my local course is going to be, less crowded and more affordable. Like that, those two things kind of go in opposite directions in terms of the profitability of the people that own it, which is why a lot of people get into the golf business. So,
well, I think that kind of wraps us all for a Sunday night. I mean, we still managed to go an hour and 30, but at least we got some. I don't want to ever hear a reader come out and say we don't answer questions from the mailbag again, because I put it to you, Soly, and you came up with some good answers. Thank you for that.
Thanks for taking over the hosting chair while I was coming in hot. I got 9:30 tee time tomorrow for my shot at. I'm hoping 2 under should get through. 1 under maybe close enough. Who knows? I have no idea what the course conditions, and I'm coming in blind into this one. But ball's coming out of the window right now.
Love it. You heard you might have had a good score out there, Bandon, despite the conditions.
Yeah, so, it's a good. If I can hole a few putts, who knows? But I'm solo it tomorrow. No caddy, no camera, no nothing. I'm just gonna lock in and see what we can generate tomorrow. So
we got our club championship is coming up for NLU. We should be have like pari-mutuel betting for that. Like I should be able to place a wager on you for be winning it all. It says after I've declared Ben the best player. Maybe I'm gonna flip now and like put the pressure on Ben.
Interesting. Gaming the markets. I appreciate that. So thank you everyone for tuning in for an hour and a half during TPC Craig Nelson, Craig James week. And we'll be back next week. We're going to have interview podcast coming out overnight on Tuesday. We will have a happy hour show on Wednesday. We'll have episode 4 of Torah Sauce Australia will come out Wednesday night. We'll have a live show this coming Sunday for Wells Fargo. Anything else coming up this week that I missed? I put some notes in here. Yeah, there's Myrtle Beach this coming week, and then the LPGA has Founders Cup at Upper Montclair as well. So, and
TC wanted to give a quick shout out to Ian Finnis, caddy, who's recovering from open heart surgery.
Yes, I put that in there. That's my guy, Ian. I love that dude. He posted this past week that
awesome dude.
Yeah, he's recovering from surgery, and hopefully he's doing well. And we hope to see him back healthy soon. So appreciate that. Kevin, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.
Cheers.